check.
Hello everyone, this is Flock Checker J Mark and together with me is
Flock Checker Ira.
and what we are going to tackle today is about poverty porn. So poverty porn is usually the content used by the content creators on social media which is using the marginalized sectors for clout and viewership. So how about you, Miss Ira? What do you know about poverty porn?
Based from my knowledge, poverty porn is taking advantage of the poor. And in other words, it's like the content creator paints himself as the hero in the story.
So actually, poverty porn by definition is using the images or the stories of the underprivileged persons, usually for an entertainment or PT, for clout and viewership. So what we are going to tackle now is the 6 different effects of poverty porn to the marginalized sector. So namely, we have exploitation. The second one is tokenization. Third one is emotional tool, misrepresentation, limited representation, and the last is perpetuating inequality. So first, let us first delve on the first effect, which is exploitation. So exploitation by definition is the marginalized sectors are being exploited of their stories, identity, or experiences, potentially turning their struggles into some sort of entertainment. So do you have any experience or knows about regarding this?
I think exploitation is very relevant in media, in other forms of media, specifically in cinema and in other types of video contents, because there is a tendency for others or the creators to exploit the story of the victim or the person who has that experience for views. And then I think the boundary to exploitation is right representation.
So actually, there are actually lots of content creators who delve on exploiting the marginalized sector without knowing actually what is the background and without properly engaging to the marginalized sectors itself. So they are just creating contents without the right process, like interviewing if the person being exploited knows what they are creating, or basically the marginalized sectors doesn't have consent or whatsoever. So that is very rampant on social media. So the second effect is tokenization. So by definition, tokenization is by reducing the experiences of the diverse experiences of the marginalized sectors, potentially causing stereotypes, specifically negative stereotypes. So do you have anything in mind, like negative stereotypes?
I think I was a victim of tokenization or stereotypes. Not really a victim, but someone who was influenced by these stereotypes, because I live in a place where there are people who are part of the marginalized sector. And then as I was growing up, I have this bias or like views on them that they might harm me, they might do unjust things to me just because they are part of the marginalized sector.
So one example is yung mga from Tondo, Manila. So they have these stereotypes from Tondo, Manila that if you are from that community, you are being labeled as walang pinag-aralan, squammy, ganyan, which is very sad to think, especially if you are in their possession na nadja-judge ka ng mga tao kasi yun yung pinapakita ng mainstream, or most of the content creators are doing, like sa social media, sa Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or sa YouTube. So, pero these people sa Tondo, Manila has actually so much to offer regardless of their backgrounds or what people knows about them.
Yeah, and majority of the Filipinos, pag sinabi nating mahirap, Tondo, Manila. Or like, pag narinig nila yung word na Tondo, Manila, their first impression of it is the poor quality of life, yung mga robbers, mga ganong bagay. Negative, the place owns a negative connotation.
So, proceeding with the third effect, which is the emotional tool. So, these people are being emotionally targeted, like, because these contents, like using the poverty porn as content, can be emotionally taxing for these people, because what if that doesn't actually happen to them, or they have just different things, like because the things that the other aspects of their lives are being overshadowed, like their contributions, their talents, their other achievements, or their cultural contributions in general in the Philippines.
And there is a tendency to exaggerate the story just so they can picture what the life of the marginalized sector really is. But again, just like what I have said earlier, it needs the right representation.
So, with that being said, we have limited representation. So, limited representation because what is being shown on the mainstream is actually the negative aspects of the community lang. Hindi na natatakol yung mga ibang bagay na magaganda sa Tondo, Manila. Just like what our former Miss Universe Catriona Gray advocacy about the children of Tondo, Manila, wherein these children has so much to offer, like their arts, their talents. They are actually very talented children, and these negative connotations regarding about them, parang nababaliwala na yung mga ibang bagay na kaya nilang i-offer sa Pilipinas.
Yes, and again, it was influenced by the negative connotation of people growing up. They are represented limitedly kasi ito lang yung alam natin at nakikita natin usually from the past.
So, the other effect is the misrepresentation. So, isa to sa mga cause. Siguro dahil wala ding masyadong from Tondo, Manila ang na-represent sa mainstream or sa ibang tao. So, kaya siguro nagro-root it. Iniisip ng ibang tao na wala nang pinag-aralan yung mga Tondo, Manila kasi hindi nababalita yung mga taong mayroon talagang achievement sa kanila.
So basically, poverty porn, the victims of poverty porn are the marginalized sector. And I think it is because of our limited knowledge about it. So it is important that before we release any type of content, we do our research first and interview people so that we can learn how they want to be represented on our contents. I would just like to quote the words of our professor, Miss Kaylea Sitchon. She said that in whatever type of content or information you post or write online, there is always a single person who will digest that content, whether we know it or we don't. So, before even posting that type of content or writing that content or output, we have to be held accountable for our actions already.
So, we have the last effect of poverty porn, which is perpetuating inequality. So, without being properly addressed, like the roots of discrimination or the causes of this, it can be damaging to the person involved to the extent na nadidiscriminate na sila ng ibang tao. Like kapag nasasalubong na sila, nilalayuan sila kasi mayroon ng connotation regarding them na ganyan sila, na mayroon silang attitude that is not on the standard spectrum. So, sobrang sakit isipin na mayroong mga ganong nangyayari dito sa ating minamahal na bansa.
Yeah, and imagine poverty porn only exists or is experienced by the marginalized sector. Imagine if all the people experience that. It is just unjust, and it is an example of the unequal treatment of our society.
So, this topic, we would like to enlign it on one of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, number 4, which is about the education of, especially for the children. So, it is important for these content creators to research about this SDG number 4 so that they have the knowledge on how they can reach and use their platform on a positive note, like reaching the children for scholarships, ganyan, like working with the organization so that they can like help these children, not just from Tondo, Manila, but from the other communities as well, to have an equal education.
Yeah, and I would just like to add, we would like you, our viewers, to know about the Broadcast Code of the Philippines. It is actually for journalists, but I think, or we think, it is very relevant and important for everyone to know, whether we're journalists or not, because it tackles about the ethics of releasing content on different platforms. So poverty porn hits actually article number 3, contents involving children, and article number 7, the individual rights of the people. So you may want to browse through it, and Kuya J. Mark will put the link down here.
So that is all. So that is all about the poverty porn that is usually seen on the mainstream. This has been Flock Checker J. Mark.
Flock Checker Ira, and see you next time.
Flock check.